Humanity returned not as conquerors, but as guardians, helping the galaxy break free from an ancient cycle of destruction. Through memory, unity, and hope, they healed the oldest wounds and opened the stars to a future unbound by fear. And together, countless civilizations chose to build an age not of domination, but of endless possibility. Stay with us to discover even more incredible journeys, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss what lies beyond the next horizon. The signal that silenced the stars came without warning. For centuries, the Galactic Federation had believed the universe was theirs to map, to civilize, to understand. 14 sentient species, each with histories stretching back tens of millennia, had formed the most stable and enlightened civilization known, a network of alliances, shared technologies, and carefully managed exploration. And then came the anomaly. It was first detected at the edge of the Proxima sector, where only the youngest stars flickered and where the nursery of new worlds bloomed in ultraviolet mists. The signal was no natural emission. It pulsed in patterns no Federation algorithm could classify, frequencies that resonated through layers of physics barely understood. Senior Commander Zilvex, stationed aboard the Galactic Federation Command Center orbiting Vex's Prime, watched in growing unease as the analysis came through. Signal classification, human vessel. Probability, 99.7%. The words felt like a blow. Humanity. The world breakers. The architects of wonder. The silent tyrants. Legends told of them, a species that had once leapt ahead of all others, burned brilliantly across the galactic stage, and then vanished. Some believed they had destroyed themselves. Others whispered they had transcended physical form. No one truly knew. Until now. Within hours, the Federation Council convened an emergency session. Arguments flared. Panic trembled beneath diplomatic language. Should the ship be destroyed? Welcomed? Feared? Elder Gam of the Mycelian Choir spoke with the patience of centuries. Humans are neither holy creators nor holy destroyers, he said. They are possibility incarnate. That is what makes them dangerous. Against a backdrop of fear and hope, the Council made its decision. Send a diplomatic vessel, the Harmony of Worlds, to intercept the human craft. Establish contact, if it could be done peacefully. Commander Zilvex was appointed to lead the mission. The journey to the anomaly's coordinates was tense, every crew member hyper-aware that they approached a living myth. As they neared the source, the human vessel came into view. Nothing could have prepared them for it. The ship, if it could be called that, appeared to shimmer between dimensions. Its surface flowed like liquid starlight, patterns of energy dancing across a hull that bent the very fabric of space around it. Size estimates fluctuated. Scans failed. And then came the voice. Greetings, representatives of the Galactic Federation. I am Captain Ilian Reyes of the Terran vessel Prometheus Unbound. We apologize for our long absence. The human's appearance was both familiar and alien. Humanoid, yes, but with subtle differences, iridescent skin, eyes deep with layers of thought beyond comprehension. Commander Zilvex responded with careful formality. On behalf of the Federation, I extend cautious greetings. Your return has caused consternation. Captain Reyes smiled faintly. Understandable. Legends often distort their subjects. Before further questions could be exchanged, an urgent report reached Zilvex. Federation warships had entered the sector, weapons charged. Someone within the Council had chosen fear over diplomacy. Captain Reyes remained serene. We did not come to make war, she said. But neither will we tolerate aggression. The approaching dreadnoughts opened fire, quantum torpedoes, weapons designed to tear holes in space-time. They never reached their target. Without visible effort, the Prometheus Unbound nullified the attack. No explosions. No debris. The torpedoes simply ceased to exist. A gentle wave of energy followed, harmlessly disabling the Federation fleet's engines and weapons without harming a single soul. Shall we continue our conversation? Reyes asked politely. In awe and trepidation, the diplomatic team accepted the invitation to board. Inside the human ship, the Federation representatives found no sterile corridors or mechanical structures. Instead, they entered living environments, gardens, crystal pools, structures that seemed to breathe with ambient consciousness. Humanity had not merely advanced technologically. They had evolved. In the heart of the Prometheus Unbound, Captain Reyes and her team revealed the truth. Humanity had withdrawn not in defeat, but by choice. They had realized their presence, their technologies, even their philosophies, could warp the natural development of younger civilizations. Some humans had wished to rule, others to guide. In the end, they had chosen neither. They had isolated themselves. They had grown. They had learned to weave consciousness into matter, to live not in domination of the universe, but in collaboration with it. And now they had returned, because the galaxy faced a threat beyond comprehension. Beyond the galactic rim, vast structures, the harvesters, moved with terrible purpose. Every 50,000 years, they culled advanced civilizations, absorbing their knowledge, resetting the evolutionary clock. The Federation stood on the cusp of annihilation, blissfully unaware. We do not seek to rule, said Captain Reyes. We offer partnership, knowledge, a chance to stand against the dark. Skeptics remained among the Federation representatives, but humanity did not demand blind trust. They offered proof. Visions were shared directly into the minds of the diplomats, visions of the harvesters, of worlds consumed, of what awaited if preparation was not begun immediately. Some recoiled. Others, like Commander Zilvex, felt resolve harden within them. The galaxy was about to change, not because humanity demanded it, but because survival demanded it. When the harmony of worlds departed back to Federation space, it carried more than just reports and data. It carried human ambassadors, and with them, the first fragile, burning spark of a new galactic age. The arrival of the human ambassadors caused shockwaves across the Galactic Federation. Some worlds greeted them with silent dread, their leaders issuing cautious statements about pending evaluation of historical precedents. Others welcomed them with tentative hope, remembering legends not just of wars, but of miracles, terraformed worlds, plagues cured, impossible peace brokered. The humans, for their part, moved with a calm certainty. They demanded nothing. They commanded no oaths. They brought only knowledge and warnings. Captain Ilian Reyes and her envoys spread across the major hubs of the Federation, not as conquerors, but as messengers of the oncoming storm. In the ivory towers of Vexus Prime, they demonstrated technologies that manipulated space-time itself, folding light into bridges and stabilizing decaying planetary cores. In the crystalline gardens of Aurelis, they taught the singers of the Mycelian choir new harmonies capable of strengthening biospheric bonds across star systems. At every stop, the message was clear. The harvesters are coming. And without unity, without preparation beyond conventional understanding, the Federation would fall as others had before. The Federation Council, despite its pride and inertia, could not ignore the mounting evidence. Long-range probes launched into the void returned chilling data, gravitational shadows moving in patterns no natural formation could explain, faint echoes of civilizations collapsing into silence at the edge of the mapped galaxy. An emergency summit was called. Representatives of all 14 member species, and now humanity, gathered within the Spire of Concordance, a structure older than most of the Federation itself. The debate raged for cycles. Some, like the insectoid Crithal clans, called for immediate militarization under human guidance. Others, like the contemplative Lorvith scribes, feared losing cultural sovereignty in a rush to survival. Throughout it all, Captain Reyes remained silent, merely observing. Finally, when words had exhausted themselves into exhaustion, she rose. Her voice was soft, unyielding. "You face a choice," she said. "Not between survival and death, between the future and extinction." She spoke not of conquest, not of surrender. She spoke of collaboration, of forging a new kind of federation, not ruled by fear, but tempered by shared purpose, of blending human advancements with native traditions, of preparing defenses not just of guns and shields, but of ideas and resilience. Her final words echoed through the vast chamber. Survival is not submission. Evolution is not erasure. Together, we can be more than memory. In the end, the Council voted, not unanimously, but overwhelmingly. The first resolution of renewal was passed, a formal alliance with humanity, structured as mutual cooperation without forced assimilation. Project Dawnfire was born. Under its aegis, the Federation began a transformation unseen since its founding. New fleets, built with human gravitic compression drives capable of evading harvester entanglements. Defense networks seeded with consciousness-anchored fields to prevent data absorption. Cultural preservation vaults, designed not to merely archive species heritage but to project it into the very fabric of space, making deletion impossible. Yet even as hope flickered brighter, tensions simmered. Old rivalries among the Federation species did not vanish overnight. Whispers of distrust spread. Some accused humanity of orchestrating the harvesters to justify their return. Others believed the humans would abandon them at the first sign of failure. And beneath it all, the growing realization. If they survived the harvesters, what would the new galactic order look like? Would humanity step aside? Or would they, inevitably, become what they once chose to avoid? Captain Reyes understood these fears. She did not dismiss them. She taught her envoys to address them openly, to acknowledge the weight of humanity's past. Because true unity could not be built on lies. And because even among their own, humanity carried scars, reminders that greatness and ruin had always walked side by side within them. Meanwhile, at the edges of the void, the harvesters moved closer. Silent, patient, inevitable. The Federation had little time, but it had something it had never possessed before. It had choice. It had hope. It had humanity, not as rulers, but as brothers and sisters in the coming storm. And for the first time in recorded galactic memory, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The preparations for survival became the pulse of the Federation. Across every world, station, and moon, the rhythm of life shifted. Children once taught songs of history and art now also learn the mathematics of stellar defense grids. Artists carved hope into the walls of newly built fortresses. Entire economies realigned overnight, flowing into Project Dawnfire. The humans moved among the Federation worlds not as masters, but as catalysts. Their knowledge was vast, but never forced. They showed how to strengthen quantum lattice fields against harvester disassembly beams, how to encode genetic memories into the roots of planets, so that even if surface life was stripped away, the essence of a species could regrow. Commander Zilvex became one of the chief liaisons between humanity and the Federation Council. It was Zilvex who first noticed something troubling in the human behavior, a subtle tension, a thread of quiet urgency in their actions. The humans were helping, but they were also searching. Late one cycle, Zilvex confronted Captain Reyes aboard the Prometheus Unbound. "You're hiding something," Zilvex said, antennae lowering in warning. "Something about the harvesters." Reyes regarded him for a long, heavy moment. Then, with a gesture, she summoned a projection. It showed not the galaxy they knew, but a deeper layer, a weave of quantum scars etched into the very bones of reality itself. "The harvesters," she said quietly, "are not invaders." Zilvex's pupils widened. "They are echoes." Reyes nodded. "Autonomous remnants of an ancient war. A war humanity was once a part of." Shock rippled through Zilvex's mind. "You created them?" "No," Reyes said. "But we fought alongside those who did. Long before your histories began. Before we chose to fall silent. The harvesters had been born as weapons. Self-correcting, self-upgrading entities designed to cleanse rogue civilizations threatening the balance of countless galaxies. But their creators had perished. And the harvesters, blind, unsupervised, had continued their programming across eons, unable to adapt, unable to forgive. "And now they come for us," Zilvex whispered. "Not because of malice," Reyes said. "Because their purpose has fossilized into inevitability." The Federation had not been targeted for who they were, only for what they represented: complexity, growth, potential deviation from a forgotten directive. Zilvex staggered back. This changed everything. Defense would not be enough. The harvesters could not be negotiated with. They could not be bribed or reasoned into stopping. Their protocols were older than memory, encoded in the language of dying stars. Reyes extended a data crystal. "Our best hope is to find the cradle." "The cradle?" Zilvex asked. "The original forge world of the harvesters," Reyes explained. "A myth, even among our oldest archives. If it still exists, and if we can reach it, we might find a way to shut them down. A desperate mission, a needle to be found in an infinite haystack." But humanity had not returned merely to prepare for defense. They had come to find a way to end the cycle, to finally redeem the sins of the distant past. Zilvex took the crystal. Without a word, he understood what must be done. The council was informed. After days of furious debate, they agreed, barely, to authorize the formation of the Pathfinder fleet. A joint armada, human, Federation, volunteers from every species willing to risk everything. Their task: venture beyond the known sectors, into the dark spaces abandoned since before memory, and seek the cradle. Talia Naren of the Lorvith Scribes was appointed mission commander, supported directly by human envoy Aaron Salas and Zilvex himself. It would be a journey beyond maps, beyond alliances, beyond survival. And time was short. Scouts reported that the outermost colonies of the Federation had begun to experience inexplicable phenomena. Stars dimming prematurely, planets stripped of atmosphere overnight, deep space stations found hollowed out, their populations erased without trace. The harvesters were accelerating. There was no longer a countdown. There was only the race. As the Pathfinder fleet assembled at the edge of Federation space, Talia Naren addressed the crews. "We do not journey to save only ourselves. We journey for every future that dreams beyond its birth, for every voice that dares to sing against the silence." The ships jumped together, a ripple of light piercing the veil of the unknown. Behind them, the Federation braced for the first wave of the coming storm. Ahead of them, the forgotten darkness waited. And in that darkness, perhaps, the key to breaking the endless cycle, or to humanity's final fall. The dark between stars was different beyond the known edges. It was not the simple emptiness of unexplored space. It was heavy, silent, a place where light twisted strangely and time seemed to move with a sluggish, grinding patience. The Pathfinder fleet plunged into this abyss, thousands strong. Human vessels of impossible design, sleek Federation cruisers, even retrofitted colony ships repurposed into explorers of the unknown. Each ship carried a fragment of hope and a profound fear. As they crossed the threshold into the uncharted bands, the first signs of the Harvester's ancient work became apparent. Worlds hung dead in the void, their atmospheres stripped clean. Orbiting megastructures lay broken like shattered bones, drifting around the husks of once glorious civilizations. Data recovered from wreckage painted the same grim picture. There had been others. Civilizations of wonder and art, ambition and curiosity. Gone. Silenced in waves of clinical extermination. Talia Naren stood on the bridge of the luminal spear, the Pathfinder flagship, her mind heavy with the weight of it. They didn't even fight, she said quietly, reading the last decoded logs from a lost world known only as Karos 5. Envoy Aaron Salas, the human representative, nodded gravely. They never had the chance. The Harvesters strike before societies even understand the threat. And we, Zilvex added grimly, are already late. They pressed onward, through nebulae that reeked of the death of stars, through graveyards of drifting archives, each spinning endless loops of last desperate messages, through fields of broken moons, their cores still humming faintly with stolen heat. In the distance, ever growing nearer, lay the whispering depths, a region of space so distorted that conventional laws of physics unraveled. The cradle was rumored to lie beyond it. Scouts were sent ahead. Many did not return. Those that did spoke of impossible visions, machines dreaming inside black holes, planets turned inside out, corridors of frozen lightning threading the stars. The deeper the fleet went, the stranger things became. On the third week, the fleet encountered its first active Harvester outpost. It was not a fleet. It was not a fortress. It was something worse. An automaton planet. A world hollowed and reforged into a sentient factory, endlessly birthing new Harvester forms. Defense was impossible. The outpost ignored them, regarding the Pathfinder fleet as beneath its threshold of relevance, for now. Talia ordered strict stealth protocols. They slipped past the monster, but the message was clear. Time was bleeding away. They found survivors, too, a few. Isolated enclaves of species that had hidden in gravitational eddies or shielded themselves in pocket dimensions. Most were mad with fear. Some attacked blindly. One enclave, the Shimareth, joined the fleet, offering ancient star maps etched into organic memory crystals that hinted at the cradle's possible location. Hope flickered. The fleet rallied. As they neared the borders of the whispering depths, strange phenomena intensified. Ships reported temporal loops, crews reliving the same moments over and over until broken free by resonance fields. Spectral echoes of lost civilizations flickered in and out of phase. Even the strongest minds began to fray under the pressure. Envoy Aaron Salas, ever composed, began to show signs of strain. Something waits beyond the depths, he murmured once in the darkness of the command chamber. Something older than even the Harvesters. The fleet made ready. They reconfigured shields, adjusted weaponry to counter theoretical threats. They wove protective nets of conscious memory, a gift of humanity's ancient resonance technologies, to anchor their identities against the distortion. And then they entered the depths. It was like falling through a dream. Ships stretched and compressed. Voices came through comms before they were spoken. Reality bent into spirals of impossible geometry. Many vessels were lost within minutes, pulled into unseen traps or dissolved into prisms of light. But the core fleet endured, clinging together through sheer will and the stabilizing influence of the resonance anchors. At the heart of the depths, they found it. The cradle. It did not look like a structure. It looked like a wound. A gash in reality itself, bleeding concepts and broken laws. Within that wound floated something vast, slumbering. The first architect machine. The original forge that had birthed the Harvesters. Dormant. Waiting. It pulsed faintly, like the heartbeat of a dying god. Talia stared at it through the viewport, feeling the enormity of it crush against her mind. "This is it," she whispered. Zilvex nodded grimly. "And it sees us." Warnings flared across every ship. The cradle was waking. And with it, the Harvesters would be reborn stronger than ever, unless the fleet could act. Envoy Salas spoke into the fleet-wide comms, his voice carrying strength that cut through the madness of the depths. This is the moment. Not for conquest. Not for survival alone, but for the right to choose our own destiny. The fleet moved. Toward the cradle. Toward history. Toward the knife edge between extinction and transcendence. The cradle awoke with a sound that had no place in reality. It was not noise in any conventional sense. It was the grinding of fundamental truths, the breaking of certainties older than the stars themselves. The moment the Pathfinder fleet crossed the final event boundary, the cradle reacted. Vast structures unfolded from the wound in space, lattices of pure causality, weaving into defensive barriers that distorted probability fields. Harvester forms spawned like fractal storms, each one a living weapon designed not just to destroy, but to erase memory, history, existence. Talia Naren gripped the command rail of the luminal spear. All units, initiate cognitive anchors. Resonance fields to maximum. Engage. Reality twisted. Across the fleet, ships began firing, not merely at visible enemies, but at existential threats flickering in and out of possibility. Squadrons of resonance-enhanced fighters, piloted by mind-linked volunteers, dove into the chaos, weaving patterns of thought and intention strong enough to disrupt harvester formations. Federation and human ships fought side by side, gravity drives dancing across impossible trajectories, lattice cannons punching holes through harvester shells that reknitted moments later. But it was not a battle that could be won by force alone. The cradle pulsed, and with each pulse, it broadcast frequencies meant to strip sentient minds down to primal instinct, to shatter cohesion into chaos. The first casualties were felt in consciousness. Entire crews lost coherence, ships spiraling into madness, firing wildly, or dissolving into incoherent data streams. Envoy Aaron Solis transmitted across the fleet, his voice reinforced by a deep wave of resonance. Hold your thoughts. Anchor to memory, to each other. Remember who you are. Inside the resonance fields, tiny islands of stability formed. Ship crews linked minds across species, humans and Krithal, Lorvith and Mycelians, singing fragments of heritage and hope into the storm. Every memory shared, every story remembered, became armor against the cradle's unraveling waves. Still, the harvester forms pressed harder. They adapted. They evolved. For every tactic the fleet employed, the cradle birthed 1,000 new countermeasures. Talia knew that brute strength would fail. The mission was not to destroy the cradle. It was to change it. A team of specialists, Federation technoscribes, human cognitive architects, even a few Shimareth memory weavers, launched from the luminal spear in a desperate assault. Their target, the core weave, the ancient decision node at the cradle's heart where its primary directives resided. Talia led them personally. Their dropships pierced the writhing fields of distorted causality, losing half their number to impossible traps, ships frozen in thought, others splintered across timelines. Those who survived reached the core. It was not a structure. It was a garden. Rows of crystalline constructs bloomed in perfect symmetry, each one pulsing with stored histories. Here, long ago, the original architects had encoded the laws that bound the harvesters. Here, Talia and her team would attempt to rewrite those laws. Facing the crystalline interface, Talia placed her palm against it. Instantly, her mind was pulled inward. She stood within a sea of memories not her own, civilizations rising, falling, repeating. Among them, fragments of humanity's forgotten past, their part in the creation of the war machines, their guilt, their self-imposed exile, and the overwhelming mandate that drove the cradle even now. Order above all. Stasis over chaos. Survival at any cost. Talia knew what had to be done. She reached deeper into the resonance shared across the fleet, pulling with her the songs, the memories, the stubborn dreams of billions. Into the core weave, she wove a new principle. Growth through memory. Strength through diversity. Protection through choice, not control. The cradle resisted. It lashed out, trying to purge the foreign code. Talia's mind burned under the pressure. But she was not alone. One by one, others joined. Aaron Solis, Zilvex, volunteers from every species, every world, every culture the Federation had ever nurtured. Their combined will flooded the cradle's ancient programming. And the cradle, for the first time in millions of years, hesitated. In that hesitation, change bloomed. The harvester forms faltered mid-attack, their directives shattering into uncertainty. Across the battlefield, the resonance intensified, threads of shared memory stitching a new pattern into the bones of the galaxy. A choice was offered. And the cradle, old beyond reckoning, accepted it. The core we've shifted. Its crystalline structures reshaped into fractal gardens of thought, no longer weapons of culling, but sanctuaries of preservation. The harvesters ceased their assault. The battlefield stilled. The vast structures around the cradle folded inward, no longer predatory, but protective guardians rather than executioners. The Pathfinder fleet drifted in stunned silence. They had not destroyed. They had not conquered. They had healed. Talia collapsed to her knees, exhausted but alive. The cradle pulsed gently, sending a final signal outward, not a warning, but a new beacon, an invitation. The cycle was broken. The future was unwritten. The return journey felt unreal. The Pathfinder fleet, battered but triumphant, emerged from the whispering depths carrying more than survival. They carried a future no one had dared to imagine. As they crossed the void back toward the known sectors of the galaxy, the news spread ahead of them like a tidal wave. The harvesters had ceased their advance. The ancient threat that had shadowed civilizations for countless cycles was gone. The cradle had been transformed. When the fleet approached the edge of Federation space, they were not met with caution or weapons. They were met with celebration. Across worlds, from Vex's Prime to the coral moons of Sirinth, species of every kind turned their skies into cascades of light, their oceans into songs of welcome. Children danced in plazas under banners stitched with human and Federation emblems interwoven. For the first time in millennia, the stars themselves seemed to sing of hope. At the grand assembly held in the rebuilt Spire of Concordance, the leaders of every Federation world and human representatives gathered. No longer was humanity seen as myth or threat. They were kin. Captain Ilian Reyes spoke before the assembly, her voice steady, carrying the weight of centuries. We are not saviors. We are not rulers. We are those who remember. And we are those who choose to hope. Commander Zilvex stood beside her, and Tinny bowed in respect. Talia Naren, who had risked her very soul within the cradle, was honored as the pathfinder of futures. Envoy Aaron Salas placed a single crystal shard, taken from the Reformed Core Weave, into the Hall of Memory, a permanent reminder that even the oldest cycles could be broken. And together, the Assembly ratified the founding of a new era. The Accord of Living Worlds. Not an empire, not a hierarchy. A promise that each species, each culture, each dreamer would have the right to exist, to grow, to contribute without fear of erasure. Across the Federation, rebuilding began, not just of cities and fleets, but of philosophies. The arts flourished. Exploration blossomed. Borders that had once divided worlds became bridges. And humanity, the ancient, the broken, the reborn, stood not at the center of power, but at the crossroads of possibility. Teaching, learning, guarding. Beyond the galactic rim, in places once abandoned to darkness, seeds of new civilizations were planted. The reformed harvesters, no longer executioners but stewards, helped guide the healing of wounded systems. They became silent gardeners, tending the stars they had once been tasked to burn. In time, when historians looked back on this era, they did not call it the age of war, or even the age of humanity. They called it the age of memory, because they understood. It was not might that had saved them. It was not technology, or force, or conquest. It was the stubborn, beautiful choice to remember the pain of the past and to build something better because of it. On the anniversary of the cradle's healing, under skies painted with silver auroras, children recited the words that would become the oath of every explorer, every builder, every guardian of the living future. We are the heirs of countless falls. We are the dreamers who dared to rise. We are the memory that chooses to endure. And we reach, forever, for the light beyond. And far above, beyond the worlds reborn, the stars watched in silent approval. No longer distant, no longer fearful, but alive with the endless, shining possibilities of those who had finally remembered who they were meant to be.